So they're going to get. So welcome everyone. Here we are, class 41. Praise the Lord. Biblical Foundation, Genesis, the book of beginnings. And guess what? We're going to review the global flood and its devastating impact on the entire earth before we start getting to some better stuff, more hopeful stuff. Okay? So let's start then, please, with Genesis. Joyce, can you please give us Genesis chapter 8, verse 1 in English and then in Portuguese, if you'd like.
And God remembered Noah and every living thing, and all the cattle that was with him in the ark, and God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged.
Beautifully pronounced.
E lembrou-se Deus de Noé, e de todos os seres viventes, e de todo o gado que estavam com ele na arca, e Deus fez passar vento sobre a terra, e aquietaram-se as águas.
Beautiful. Any suggestions among our Portuguese scholars?
No.
Beautiful. And you know what? We are getting more people to subscribe on YouTube. And so I thought what we use, everyone, in case it's not already clear, is the King James Bible in English, which is the pure and preserved Bible in English. And we use the Almeida Corrigido Fiel in Portuguese, which is a recuperation of the Reformed Bible by called Versão Almeida Ferreira, which was corrupted, unfortunately, over the last century and more, and then was recovered. So, and also brought up to modern Portuguese linguistic requirements. So there we are, beautiful. Okay, so let's start with Emily, and that is question A in English, please.
Were winds prevalent prior to the flood?
Okay, so we have a young scientist who answered this question immediately last class. Do you want to share that with us, Pedro?
No, probably no.
Okay, and you're absolutely right. They were not prevalent prior to the flood. And then he answered this next question perfectly. So Pedro, if you want, please read question B and answer it if you would like.
What generates winds?
And the answer, Pedro?
The difference of temperatures and pressure.
Fantastic. Okay. That's like a perfect 100 on the test, A+, A+. Okay, Lucas, can you please read question C in English?
Word is stable or unstable prior the flood.
Okay, and that word is prior to the flood. Okay, so what do you all think? So were the winds stable or unstable? Or wait a second, were the temperatures, excuse me, I didn't want to give the answer away to question B and question C. So were these refer to temperatures and pressure? Were these stable or unstable prior to the flood?
They were very stable.
Absolutely right. Okay, so we have several scientists in the class. Okay, so back to Emily. Can you please read question, to Joyce. Can you please read question D in English?
Violent winds on shoreless seas likely created what?
Okay, so remember, Genesis 8:1 says God made a wind to pass over the earth and the waters assuaged, and we'll help define that word in the next question. But that sounds like that's a big wind, right? God made the wind. It wasn't just a little poof. Okay, this is a very big wind. Okay, so if it's a very big wind or violent one, and there are no shores, what does that imply? So it's all water. So a big violent wind over all water. What do shores normally do? If you have shores, what do?
They stop the wind.
And the waves, absolutely right. Okay, so you have land, and then the sea has waves because of the wind, and the waves break and they dissipate. The wind might continue some, but it also slows down. Hurricanes, as we know in Florida, they're most dangerous right next to the coast because the hurricane coming over land slows down. Okay, it loses power. Okay, very good. So large waves then were likely created, and maybe even tidal surges, by this large God-made wind. Okay, Emily, can you please read question E, please?
How did the waters assuage or subside?
Okay, so assuage is not a common word, and in the King James Bible, we have a slightly different spelling of it, but hey, the way it's pronounced is the same as it is today. So, hello, Monica.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Igualmente. Me too.
You
Hi,
look like I go like this, and then sometimes now it puts a little hand up. Uh-oh,
Hi,
what?
Lucas. Hi. Me
Good.
olvidei do nome.
Pedro.
Pedro. Sorry, Pedro.
And okay, I can lower this. And sometimes you have the name on the next to the picture.
Ah, yes.
So Emily just read the question E. How did the waters assuage or subside? Okay, so this is not an easy question. And I would have no idea if I did not have the Henry Morris Study Bible, because he was a trained engineer, but he taught himself in all scientific areas very well. And so I only know from having read him what a feasible theory is, a likely scenario. So let's think of it. If the world is covered with water, that is what? If you recall, 12 cubits above the highest mountaintop, that's a lot of water. So we can understand how a wind might reduce a puddle, right? Because the wind goes over a puddle of water and it brings the moisture up into the atmosphere. To do that in the entire world covered in water, that sounds like a very big wind. Maybe too big. Nothing's too big for God, but for physical properties, that's hard for a wind to raise that much moisture into the atmosphere. So what's another theory? What's another possibility? And does anyone remember or know? The next verse will give us a hint, perhaps something's happening. And the next verse starts with where that something is happening.
The fountains of the great deep, maybe the channels, absorbed some water.
Absolutely right. Okay, so one way to think of it is that let's go through it together. Remember how the atmosphere, okay, or the windows of heaven, as it's beautifully poetically called in verse 2. The windows of heaven, so the atmosphere allowed it to rain for 40 days and 40 nights. And at the same time, the fountains of the deep did what? they burst through. Okay, like geysers, volcanoes. So the waters, that there was a layer of water underneath the Earth's crust, huge caverns of water. And through what processes is not clear, but tectonic shifts, plate shifts, the heat of the Earth, God changed a few things, and boom, there was fountains of water coming up out of the Earth's crust. So what happens is you had a cavern filled with water, and if most or all the water comes out of the cavern, what is the cavern now? It's empty. Okay, so if the Earth's crust is this, and there's all this thick, heavy water on top of it, and now all of a sudden there's an empty cavern below, what happens? Well, the Earth crust can break. Okay, so think of it that way, that all of a sudden the Earth crust that was supported by a cavern of water, it's now a cavern, empty cavern, and the Earth crust goes, okay? And that's a lot of crust over a lot of surface of the Earth, and that allows for massive tidal waves, water coursing, water's doing this and that, and falling back in to the fountains of the deep. Okay, so that would drain the water from the Earth's surface. Okay, so isn't that fun? And also, and I think this is supported, yeah, we'll get to that further question. That very process, we seem to have evidence of that process, but we'll get to that in a further question. So Monica, can you kindly read Genesis chapter 8, verses 2 to 3 in English?
Okay. The fountains also of deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained, and the waters returned from off the earth continually. And after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated.
Yeah, with that one T, then the A is more open, abated. Very good. Okay, Joyce, can you read that in Portuguese? Give us some more beautiful Portuguese, you multilingual Bible scholar.
Cerraram-se também as fontes do abismo e as janelas dos céus, e a chuva dos céus deteve-se, e as águas iam-se escoando continuamente de sobre a terra, e ao fim de 150 dias minguarão.
Any suggestions from our Portuguese scholars?
I think maybe minguarão. Minguarão. Minguarão.
Minguarão.
Yes.
Okay, and isn't that a fun verb? I didn't know that verb before reading that, so that the waters abated. Okay, so Pedro, can you please read question F in English?
The waters returning or subsiding of the earth continually suggest what type of action?
Okay, so again, remember the Bible uses very few words to tell us a lot. And so in verse 3 or 2, the end of verse 3, it says continually. The waters return from off the earth continually. What does that sound like? So suggest what?
It repeats itself.
Say that again, sorry.
It's
Joy?
repeating itself.
Yeah. And the other thing is if it's happening continually,
Yeah.
it perhaps is strong and forceful.
Mm.
It's not that it stops, it starts, stops, it starts, it stops, but rather it's continual, this process of the waters abating. So perhaps it's strong and forceful. Lucas, can you please read question G in English, please?
Do the depths of the sea bear evidence of this rapid drainage?
Okay, very nice. All righty, so what do you think? Okay, so the depths of the sea bear evidence of this rapid drainage. So remember, our theory, our scenario is that the Earth's crust in many places collapsed. And then the water like fell in. Is there evidence in the depths of the sea, at the very bottom of the sea, for this kind of event?
If we believe that the holes were made, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do we see at the bottom of the sea? And we only just remember for 2,000 years or 3,500 years, no one had this evidence. We only picked up this evidence recently in the last century. So what do you find in the sea? Is it all just a flat bottom of the sea? No, there are actually valleys. Okay, valleys and like riverbeds that were created by erosion, by water going like this. And there's also sea mounts or mountains. So these are suggestive of some violent, sea drainage, water drainage. Okay, and how about, so Emily, can you please read question H in English?
Do marine fossils at the top of current mountains bear evidence of the global flood?
Okay, so what do you think?
Yes.
So how else can one explain
Yes.
fossils at the top of mountains? Now remember that, the way that evolutionary geologists will try to explain it is that the mountains were thrust up, and we believe that did happen. All right, when there's continental plate tectonic shifts, continents hit each other, and it pushes up and it creates mountain ranges like the Andes in South America, the Rockies in North America, the Alps in Europe. But do they push them up from 0 elevation to 20,000 feet high? Okay, I don't know. That sounds like a big order. Okay, so let's continue on. So now we're going to go to some new material for everyone. And so we're now continue study of the flood and its abatement. Since we learned that good English word now, to abate or to subside, and abatement of the water. So Monica, can you please read Genesis 8:4, please?
And the ark received in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat.
Very good. So I think in the first part, the ark rested.
Rested.
Yeah. Okay. And if I didn't include this in the question, well, first of all, Joyce, can you kindly give us the Portuguese?
E a arca repousou no 7º mês, no dia 17 do mês, sobre os montes de Ararat.
Beautiful. Any suggestions?
No.
I'm not even going to ask for any suggestions. So the Portuguese scholars are going to speak up. Otherwise, hold your peace. As we like to say in English. Okay, and actually, I remember now from last class, we ended with this verse last class, and Pedro pointed out something interesting. I didn't even include it in the question. Do you remember what you pointed out, Pedro, from last class in about that beautiful verse, Genesis 8:4?
Yes, I remember.
Please share with us.
Because here in this verse, there is an interesting number that shows the 7th month. And this 7 is the number of the days of the creation and the day of the rest.
Absolutely right.
I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's intentional. Okay, so on the 7th month, as in the 7th day of creation, rest. Okay, which is beautiful. Excellent. Well, now let's think together on this, and I'm going to share with you first. I sent this in the email in case this is too small or difficult to see. Okay. So what we have here is a nice map, and I'm going to show you. It's an old map, and I'm going to show you the lovely book that I found it in. But if you can see my cursor, I'm circling Mount Ararat, okay, where we believe Noah's Ark landed. Now let's get an idea of where this is. Yeah, there you go. If you turn it vertical, it might be bigger and you can see it. It's up here in what's called Asia Minor, and it's like halfway between the Caspian Sea, which is over here, and the Black Sea. Okay, so it's Asia Minor. And interestingly, you go south from here, and where do we get to? We get to a number of interesting places. Nivea, okay, is where Jonas resisted going to, okay? And that is on the Tigris River. Below that is the Euphrates River, and that is where Babylon and the Tower of Babel are. And we get all the way here to where almost the Euphrates joins the Persian Gulf. Okay, the Persian Gulf goes by Saudi, between Iran, Persia, and Saudi Arabia. And there is a place called Eridu, which is the traditional. So it's held by tradition. We don't actually know, but as where the Garden of Eden was. And one last place, Farah, or Farah. And that's the traditional home of Noah. And so all of this, if these places are correct, because we don't have evidence of it, but wait a sec, Farah is the traditional home of Noah, and we believe that to be the case because there's a place there named after him that says this is where Noah came from. And so think of it this way. Noah built his ark in this very fertile area between the Tigris and the Euphrates. And it ended up, when it came back down, it was 500 miles to the north around or on Mount Ararat. It's a little hard to see in this map, but in other ones you can see it. Mount Ararat is actually the headwaters for these rivers, okay, because they curve over. And so we believe that these very high mountains in today's Turkey are this, some of the headwaters or source of these very important rivers. So, all right, so it's a little difficult to see, but we'll move from that. I just wanted to show you, does that read correctly? It's not inverted. You can read it. Okay.
Yes, I can read it.
Okay. So I found this online. I love old things because they're not corrupted by modern thinking. And this handbook by a gentleman named Haley actually has gone through, well, it's hard to see, but it first was printed in 1927. And this printing is in 1965. And it actually was translated into Portuguese in 1965 as well. So you probably can find it in Mercado Livre. Okay. An old book, handbook. And they were the ones who include some beautiful maps, and it has many maps. It has lots of archaeological evidence. It's a wonderful handbook. I'm enjoying it. So let's move on. So I thought that was interesting because, to tell you the truth, that's the only place where I've seen maps and an explanation where all of this seems to have occurred.
It's so interesting.
Say that again, Emily.
It is so interesting.
Isn't it fun? Okay, so, and again, this is supposition, all right? Because we don't have, it's not factual. We don't know that the ark is up in the top of Mount Ararat, but there have been many reports of that. Okay, so let's move on. So Monica, so Emily, can you please read question 1 in English?
How long roughly were Noah and his family inside the ark?
Okay, it's hard to tell from all the verses, so I'm going to tell you. A little over 1 year. Okay, because you have to go from they go from the 7th month of the 17th, so it's like, well, what month is that? So it's difficult to calculate. Okay, but it's a little over a year. And here's another question, which is, I don't expect anyone to know the answer, but Monica, can you please read question 2? But maybe you can give an educated guess. Question 2 in English.
Yeah. What else of great importance occurred on the 17th day of the 7th month?
Okay, the 7th month. All right. What do you think of great importance? And I'll tell you, it's like it has some similarities to the ark coming to the rest. And no, it's not the day that, like the 7th day of creation. If you want another hint, we're coming up now.
Yeah, I thought so. Maybe Easter. Or not.
Okay, better yet, Resurrection Sunday. Okay.
I thought Easter. I was thinking maybe.
Okay, because remember, Easter is the word which is from Ishtar. It's a pagan name, and associated with Easter, a bunch of bunny rabbits. Okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
It's the common name. But it's
Yeah,
not
in Dutch, it's Easter. It's
okay. Yeah,
Pasen.
I know.
So
Exactly. Yeah.
we don't have another name for it.
Okay, but Christians do, and we can call it Resurrection Day or Resurrection Sunday.
Hmm.
Okay.
Paaszondag. It's like Easter Sunday.
Yeah. Okay. And we just
Yeah.
passed Palm Sunday. That's good. That's what we just had on
Yeah,
Sunday,
we know Palm
right?
Sunday. Yeah,
Okay,
we know
Jesus's
it.
entrance. But then instead of calling it Easter week, I prefer calling it Resurrection Week. But that's just me. Okay, so wow. I'll tell you, things happen not in coincidences in the Bible. So if Resurrection Day, so in a sense, it rested. So they actually have now come back to a safe place, and the human race can start again. Right? Because they didn't die in the floodwaters. The ark didn't founder, meaning that it didn't go down. The water didn't come in and sink it and kill Noah and his family. All right, so they arrived at the resting place on the same day of the same month as Jesus was resurrected. So, wow, okay, how fun, amazing. So, Joyce, can you please read question 3 in English?
Where are the mountains of Ararat located? In Turkey.
Okay, and I did say that. There's actually a more specific part of Turkey and what that area was called traditionally. Now, if you know recent Turkish history, the Turks, unfortunately, are, I think, justly accused of a genocide a little over a century ago. Where? What part of Turkey? Armenia. Okay, so and guess what they were? If I'm not, they're Christian Armenians. Okay, which kind of, all right, hey, where the ark landed, there were some strong Christians until the Turks had their way with them. Okay, so let's go to question 4, and that would be Pedro, please, in English.
How high is and what type of mountain is the current Mount Ararat?
Okay, so I don't expect you to know the exact feet.
Around 5,000?
It's higher. It's 17,000.
Wow.
Okay, so that's pretty high. Now, but I'm asking what type of mountain? And again, this is just kind of like, oh, that's interesting. So remember, I said that mountains can be formed like mountain ranges, such as the Andes, the Rockies, the Alps, by continents crashing together and bringing up mountain ranges. What's another way that mountains can be formed?
Through the magma eruption.
Exactly, and for that to occur, what the magma erupts out of what? Is it a name for it? A volcano.
Ah, okay.
Okay. Okay, so this is a volcanic mountain. Okay, so if you think of that again, when were these volcanic eruptions occurring? A lot of them were occurring around at the beginning of the flood, or maybe at the end of the flood. There was a violent actions. Everything was changed. All geography was changed by this massive, massive flood. And so while the volcanic eruption might have occurred later, but that helped shoot Mount Ararat up to 17,000 feet. So,
Please. Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah,
Lucas, you were thinking
there's a
of
difference.
meters. Okay,
Yeah,
5,000 meters. Yeah,
around
5,000 meters is
5,000
actually,
meters.
that's a good guess, but that's 1,500 feet more or less. So very good. Okay, so Lucas, can you please read question 5 in English?
Yes, what has been found at the mountain's summit?
Okay, what do you think? I kind of hinted at one of the things that's been found at the Ararat summit, or close to it. Marine fossils. Okay, wow. And then there's something I learned also that's called pillow lava. And that is lava which shoots up and it has a huge amount of water pressure combating it. And I don't know how, but that creates lava pillows because the lava did not have a free reign. When we have a volcano today, like Mount Helena, St. Helena in Washington State, US, which is an incredible event because it proved many things that support creationism and doesn't support evolution. So that was a volcanic blast into the air. So we have evidence that this is a volcanic blast into the deep sea. So wow, okay, once again, we keep on discovering things. Scientists keep on finding facts which support what? The Bible. And they're never going to stop finding facts supporting the Bible because the Bible is the actual history and truth Okay, so that was so. Emily, can you kindly read Genesis 8:5 in English?
And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. And in the 10th month, on the first day of the month, were the tops of the mountains seen.
Thank you. So Joyce, can you kindly give that to us in Portuguese?
E foram as águas indo e minguando até ao décimo mês. No 10º mês, no primeiro dia do mês, apareceram os cumes dos montes.
I think kumes.
Cume.
Oh, sorry.
Mhm.
I'm not a Portuguese scholar, but I can hear things once in a while. Okay, very good, lovely. All right, so let's see, that was, so there we are. And now let's go to question 6, and that would be Monica. Question 6, please, in English.
How long did it take for enough water to recede to see mountain tops?
Very good. So enough, that GH has like a strange F sound, enough water. Okay, so it's actually just here, it's fairly straightforward. 7th month, 17th day, 10th month, first day of the month. So it's about 2.5 months. Okay, so even if there was some collapsing going on and violent actions, it still took a long while, okay, for the mountaintops to actually be seen. That's a lot of water. So, Joyce, can you please read Genesis 8:6 through 8 in English?
And it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. And he sent forth a raven, which went forth to and fro until the waters were dried up from off the earth. Also he sent forth a dove from him, to see if the waters were abated from off the face of the ground.
Lovely. And if you're ready with the Alameda Corregido Fiel,
E aconteceu que ao cabo de 40 dias, abriu Noé a janela da arca que tinha feito, e soltou corvo que saiu indo e voltando até que as águas se secaram de sobre a terra.
one more.
Depois soltou uma pomba para ver se as águas tinham minguado de sobre a face da terra.
Okay. Any suggestions? I think Joyce says secaram, but wouldn't it be more secaram?
Secaram.
Secaram.
Okay, so a little more of the emphasis up front. But very
Secaram.
nice. Wow. And we're not going to ask you to do this in Dutch also, because then that would be Okay, so here's another scientific question. Now we're who's a biologist in the class? So Lucas, can you read question 7 in English, please?
Why did Noah send a raven first?
Okay, a raven. Okay, so why? So again, the Bible doesn't really tell us much, but it does tell us that Noah sent a raven,
The dove.
which went 2 and 4, and then a dove.
Maybe because a raven was like unclean, like was not kosher, and
Okay,
the dove was
well,
was
that's okay.
also presented for an offering
Interesting, but I think you're getting at it. Why is the raven unclean?
because it's like a flesh eating.
Exactly right. Okay. So another way to say that, it's a carrion eater, because
Mhm.
carrion is the name for like the dead corpse of an animal. Okay, we don't use that for human beings. All right, that's a corpse, but it's a carrion eater. So why is that interesting? Because the raven could find food. Because when the waters stopped, receded, there
Mhm.
probably were still some dead bodies trapped,
Mhm.
all right, in some rocks or something. And so that's why we don't, it doesn't sound like the raven came back. And a raven also is a strong bird. And so it's called what we say a hardy flyer. Okay. So it can fly a long, long direction or long, long distance.
Mhm.
Okay. So Noah, he knew his animals. So he sent the raven first and then the dove. And so then now let's look at the next question. So Pedro, can you please read Genesis 8, chapter 8, verse 9 in English?
But the dove found no rest for the soul of her food, and she returned unto him into the ark, for the waters were on the face of the whole earth. Then he put forth his hand and took her, and pulled her in unto him into the ark.
Very nice. Okay, Joyce, can you give that to us in Portuguese, please?
A poma, porém, não achou repouso para a planta do seu pé, e voltou a ele para a arca, porque as águas estavam sobre a face de toda a terra. E ele estendeu a sua mão e tomou e recolheu-a consigo na arca.
Thanks. I think I didn't hear the at the end of Tomoa. Just before the Hekoleu'a. Any other suggestions?
No.
Very nice. Okay, so now let's get to the dove question. So Emily, can you please read question 8 in English?
Why did the dove, but not the raven, need to return to the ark?
Okay, what do you
Because it didn't have a place to put the sole of her foot, and also because she eats other things.
Absolutely right. And what does she eat? So if she's not eating carrion or dead bodies, a dove eats what?
Plants.
Exactly. So fresh plant life.
And fruits,
Okay.
maybe.
So that's why she was a good indicator. All right. She came back because there was no fresh plant life yet. And so it's a good idea to wait until the earth is already producing before leaving the ark. Okay, so and also not a hardy flyer, so she came back. Okay, so we're gonna finish up. Monica, can you please read the last two verses of today's lesson? Genesis 8, 10 through 11, please.
Right. And he stayed yet other 7 days. And again he sent forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came in to him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth, and he stayed yet other seven days, and sent forth the dove, which returned not again unto him any more.
Ah, lovely. What a lovely story.
Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, well, a couple of things. Remember, it says, oh, sorry. First of all, Joyce, can you please give that to us in Portuguese?
E esperou ainda outros 7 dias, e tornou a enviar a pomba fora da arca. E a pomba voltou a ele à tarde, e eis arrançada uma folha de oliveira no seu bico. E conheceu Noé que as águas tinham minguado de sobre a terra.
Beautiful. Okay. So we're going to talk more about this verse next class, but I just want to leave you with some thoughts. First of all, even though the Bible doesn't include the word week, human beings were using weeks a lot. Okay, so 7 days, the seventh day, so a week of days. It does use week of days later, but I mean we're being shown the importance of the week. And also let's think together until next class. What might the importance be that it was an olive leaf? And what does a dove represent? It's a symbol of what? We'll just yes, of what?
The Holy Spirit.
Yes. Okay. So anyway,
And
let's
olive branch means peace.
nice. Okay. All right. So let's think about that together over the next week. Again, just in these 2 simple verses. All right. It's reverberating with all sorts of symbols and thoughts and associations. Okay, so it's not just a simple story. It's a full, beautiful story. And I think that's the case in almost every Bible story. Okay, so there's layers of interpretation and meaning and beauty. So terrific. All right, so let's, any questions or comments in English?
I have a quick comment. From the commentary, when I read this passage in my yearly Bible reading, there's a commentary by John Gill online, and he talks about the dove and the raven and the possible meaning for them. And I thought it was so beautiful. Like he connected them to the gospel. And I thought it was a beautiful interpretation. If anyone would like to read it, it's very nice.
Yeah, very interesting. And so I think we have an idea of what the dove represents, the Holy Spirit. What does the raven represent? Does that represent something else?
He makes an explanation of how the raven possibly could mean like the law of trying to earn salvation by works. He
Okay.
makes like a complex explanation, but I don't remember exactly now.
Uh-huh.
But it's very interesting. And then the dove, it represents the gospel, so the grace. It's very nice.
Okay. Lovely. All right. So fantastic. Well, any other questions or thoughts? Okay. And remember, Emily has offered if anyone reach out to her if you would like to go into that lovely subject in more depth. So we're going to end the recording. Oopsie, over here.